Hi there. Happy October 1st, 2024. I have been interrupted so many times doing this video. I'm really hoping this will be the final time I record it. Maybe that'll have me be more concise as well. But there is a lot to cover in this one, so I'm just giving you that warning. We are at October 1st, 2024. It's the final quarter of the Gregorian calendar, 2024 year, and it looks to be a bumpy ride. And I thought I would just talk about that today and the things that I believe we should be kind of keeping in mind, also reflecting upon from the last year. We have an eclipse tomorrow in Libra. It's the final eclipse in Libra. The first eclipse we had in Libra was last October 14th, 2023. We had another one earlier this year, March 25th, and this is the final one of the Libra cycle. So it's always when we're at the final chapter of an eclipse cycle, it's really good to take stock as to what is the storyline that has been coming through in your life as well as in the collective field, the global field, that is trying to work with us, is trying to help us shift and change and stay on path. We know, we don't need to, keep reiterating that the only constant and consistent thing in life is change. And yet it's the thing that humans resist the most. Particularly Libras, in a lot of ways, and not in particular change. So I'll talk about that. So Libra is the sign of fairness and balance and justice. It's represented by the scales. As a result of that, we related a lot to relationships. It's ruled by Venus. So it's a relationship sign. It's focused on the dynamics between one and another. It is very interested in love, and it is very interested in, pleasing the other. And so as much as we have strengths in every signs, we have also what I would call not weaknesses, but shadow aspects of that behavior. So Libra, being the peacemaker, wanting to create harmony, has issues sometimes with being more of a people pleaser and sometimes being more passive aggressive, mainly because it doesn't like conflict. Libra is not a fan of conflict. So with that said, these eclipses that have been in Libra have been South Node eclipses. South Node eclipses are aspects of ourselves that we are trying to release and let go of. So I generally, when I'm looking at South Node eclipses, I'm tending to focus more on the shadow side of that sign. So we can release that and bring awareness to it first, but then release any behavioral patterns that we notice or emotional patterns that come with it. So what you can first do is go back to October of last year. Look at what was going on in your life personally, what was going on in the world. And there's very clear things that were going on in the world. I'm not going to even get into the details of all that here. But the experience I had of it was this long-standing issue that's been going on the planet for decades, nearly a century, if I think more, was having an eruption, particularly as it relates to justice and fairness and equality. And, so we all, because we now live in a technologically advanced world where we can observe everything going on or be told things from all different parts of the world, we are having a relationship with events that we're not even a part of anymore. And I think that that's one of the things we've really got to start looking at in a couple of different ways. Now, does that mean we should turn our head away from things that are going on in other places? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm actually saying is, we are a culture, we are a world that is loaded with ancestral trauma. Ancestral trauma or transgenerational trauma is trauma that was passed down to us from things that happened before we came into this lifetime. Things that could not be resolved with our ancestors get passed down to us to deal with. It's why, we can see people who weren't necessarily enslaved can feel very personally connected to having been enslaved if their ancestors were. It can be, in my own example, because of the harm the Catholic Church has done in my lineage, I feel a lot of anger and desire to bring to light the issues that are hidden behind that oppressive institution. But the truth of the matter is, for most of my life, I was not aware that that was what was going on. I knew I had issues with authority. I knew that I was rebellious, still am, still will be, always likely. But I didn't understand where it was all coming from, and it's taken me a long time to figure that out, going on a long healing process. And so I want to talk about these eclipses that have been going off at the same time that Pluto, our planet of transformation and healing and rebirth and pulling things from the underground world and bringing it up to the surface. These two things are working in tandem. Why? Because there's only every 15 to 20 something years that Pluto changes signs, and it's going to do it in the next month and a half. And when it's at the last degree of a sign, it is pulling focus on that area. And we have been dealing with Pluto going through Capricorn, essentially pulling the truth up from below the surface since 2008. We are looking at all of the infrastructures that have been in place, that all of the things that have been going on behind the scenes that we didn't see, that have been affecting us in 100 different ways. So we have that quite literally in our infrastructure, but we have it inside of us in our DNA as well, from having been passed down from our ancestors. So I just want that to be kind of understood about, I think that all of us are dealing with those aspects of ourselves. It's why we're getting so fiery about issues in other parts of the world, because we have issues inside of us that have not been resolved and not been dealt with directly. And so we can start projecting all of our crap onto others. We are trying to tell everybody else they should focus on this thing we believe to be important. Guilty as charged. With the Catholic Church, I don't understand how people don't know all the things the Catholic Church has done, or is very aware of what the Catholic Church has done and continues to turn their head. I'm at a place where I can't do that anymore with it. Not because I want to fight, but actually because I want to bring justice and dignity to the many, many, many lives that have been harmed. Because as long as we don't heal that, it will continue to pass down the line. So the point of all of this releasing this people-pleasing behavior of Libra, releasing this passive aggression from Libra, is so that we deal with these things more directly, so that we can clear this stuff out of our identity, Aries, the opposite sign of Libra, so that our self can become intact and whole again, in the sense that it doesn't feel there's something wrong or something missing, or, we're here to heal. That's the big part of being human on the planet, is to heal all kinds of things. And most of us will avoid healing because it doesn't require us to look at things we don't like. So whether you're looking at this personally or you're looking at the things going on in the world, and either you're too involved, in things that don't have anything to do with you, or you are not involved enough in the things that have everything to do with you, whether that's your personal lineage or your direct community and what's going on in your direct community. The more that we are distracted to these things that are away from us, the more away from ourselves we are going to get. And I believe that's what these eclipses are trying to show us, that we need to come back to ourselves, and we need to come back to each other and stop fighting each other about these things. It's going to be so heightened here in the United States because this eclipse, as well as this transition of Pluto, is happening while we're having a very important election here in the United States. I believe in the United States, we're going through our Pluto return here in the United States, which means the Pluto is back where it was when we signed the Constitution. Whenever we have a return of a planet back to where it was at the initiating point, in our case, our birthday, we'll never have a Pluto return. It takes 280-something years for it to come all the way around. So countries can have returns, though. And when we're having a Pluto return, it is a death and rebirth cycle. And so we need to be as open to letting things go and letting things die as we are as to opening ourselves up and birthing ourselves into something new. And this is our fundamental need here in this country right now. A few years back, we had a pandemic here on the planet. I remember in 2017 and 18, when I started my private practice, I kept telling my patients the earth is on toothpicks, and at any moment in time, those toothpicks are about to get kicked out, and it will feel very unstable here. And it's because those toothpicks are an illusion, you know? So, and it's because we have had faulty information passed down to us, you know. So not only have we had trauma passed down to us, we've had lies passed down to us. We've had particular narratives passed down to us. So we're at a moment in time, particularly here in the United States, where we are facing ourselves so directly and so painfully, because it's going to be very hard to believe that we have spent most of our life in a delusion and in an illusionary world, things that are not true. You know, everybody looks at our government as the Bible, you know, as the be-all authority. It's literally the worst version of an authority, because it's not actually taking people into consideration. It's taking power, Pluto, into consideration. And to me, this is what Pluto is trying to show us. How much do we understand the power of love, or how much do we love power? And it's up to us. But the power of love is what's available through Libra. The love of power is what's available in Aries. And we do need both. We need our own self-empowerment to be able to show up in our relationships. We need to be able to deal with ourselves, to be able to show up for the justice issues happening in our community. You know, while everybody's very focused on this area, at least in the United States, that is not in the United States, they are not looking at what's happening inside of their own country, inside of their own communities. They're not looking at the fact that our food is now poisoned, our water is poisoned, our air is poisoned. This is not a drama. This is this is fact. We have, you know, toxic chemicals. We have Roundup that has now leached into so many of our things. We've got fluoride in our water. We've got Wi-Fi and technology interacting with our bodies. We're very aware that there's so many things now that are causing cancer, and yet we talk about wanting to cure cancer. Cancer is not something to be cured. Cancer is here to wake us up to what is no longer serving us. And so as long as we remain victim to things we don't like, because because it's interrupting our life, we are missing the point. Things like disease, things like natural disaster, they stop us in our tracks to say, you have an opportunity to pause, reflect, reapproach your life. This is an opportunity. Perhaps instead of waiting until you're on that deathbed to realize, wow, I spent so much of my time and energy on things that actually didn't matter, you're getting this opportunity multiple times throughout your life. And so the biggest issue I think we've had is that we've been told stories from birth. We've had movies and TV shows and programs and fairy tales programmed into us. And we somehow then match our life up against those stories and determine whether we are successful beings or good beings based on that, based on what religion has told us, that if you do this, then you're going to go to hell, and if you do this, you're going to go to heaven. A lot of this is not true. You know, I'm not saying that aspects of the Bible is a very amazing book to read. I highly recommend you read it. But when you put spiritual things into the hands of humans, you're going to be dealing with human nature, and part of human nature is it's so limited. We are limited in what we can and can't see. Those of you that know me or worked with me know, for instance, that when you would come into my treatment room, I'd be getting messages from all kinds of areas, people, my high intuition. I would have relatives of my patients be giving me messages to give them. I didn't understand that for years. I understood that people had capabilities of doing that, but what I didn't realize is really most of us, if all of us, we have the capability of doing that, but the issue has become, we've become so programmed by these narratives that have been passed down to us through our education system, through our religious systems, through our parents who have been traumatized and been through wars and been through, periods of, not just war, but like famine and, periods of time where people just needed to try to survive the living experience. You know, you can go all the way back. And now we live in a time where we are not actually living as fluidly in the earthly world. We are very much moving into this technological world and getting programmed by that now. As an example, for instance, people are now not using the word DEAD on social media and instead saying unalive. And that scares me, that we are actually changing our language so that we can not affect an algorithm. And yet we kind of need to do those things to get our messages out. So this is what I think we're being asked to fundamentally look at. Where are we not being honest? Where are we skirting around issues? Why are we focused on all the things over there and Hollywood and celebrities and all of this stuff? Why? Because it's been programmed into us. But please tell me how any of those things have served you in your lifetime. Please remember at the most amazing parts of your life, which were usually the hardest parts of your life, some of the most intimate, amazing experiences you've had with nature, with other humans, with your family, with your friends, with animals, with plants. That's what's actually here. We're here to work with. If you're not, we're on a very delicate line right now where some of us are going to wake up from this delusion and illusion, and some of us are not. And it's going to be imperative for you to decide who you're surrounding yourself with, because whatever you're surrounded by is going to impact you. You'll just continue to get programmed by that. So I'm going to be talking about programming for a very long time. I have no doubt, because most of the world has done no work on deconditioning from that. And that's the work I'm here to do. It's why I left my practice a year ago when these eclipse cycles started, because I realized I could have people come in to my treatment room and have these amazing experiences, but in the end, they're going back into their world, into their delusional world, and continuing to getting programmed. So what hell difference does it make if they're coming in and feeling great and having this amazing experience with me, but no support systems around them to keep that going? So I'm a person who's interested in getting to the root of problems. And right now it's through astrology and I created a program called Orientation to help orient people towards what their birth data, the wisdom behind those dates and those numbers and that time means about what your mission is here. And I want to help people stop being so distracted by what everybody else is doing